we go then. Welcome to the 20 December Wenham Select Board meeting starting at 6:31 p.m. It's a virtual meeting. All votes be by roll call, and it is being recorded. In attendance is Gary Cheeseman.
Diane Bugo.
Peter Clay.
All right. Thank you very much.
But we're reopening. We've already opened it.
Yes,
right?
yeah, reopening.
Okay.
We should say not opening.
Yeah,
Or
thank you.
reopening. All right. So first order of business, anyone for public input on items not on the agenda?
I see no hands, Gary.
All right. So let's proceed on to I think your announcements next then. Steve, do you have those in view?
Yep.
All right.
All right. So again, winter parking ban. This is just a reminder. Went into effect on November 2nd and will stay in effect to March 31st, 2023. These restrictions apply all winter, whether there's snow predicted or not, or if there's snow on the ground or not. No vehicles can be parked on town streets for more than an hour from midnight to 6 a.m. Between the dates previously stated. And this is the Hamilton Wenham Volunteer Fair on Wednesday, February 8th, from 5 to 8 at the Community House. This is put on by the League of Women Voters, and it's basically a fair that you can advertise or, and illustrate different volunteer opportunities in our community, and connect with people who are looking to volunteer and get involved. If you have any questions, please email the League of Women Voters at the email at the bottom of the slide, or feel free to just call myself or Michelle in the select board's office and we can get you in touch with the appropriate individual.
So we plan to have town representation, and have we polled all the boards and committees to see about their participation?
No, we haven't, but we will.
Yeah.
We can
So-
get them involved. I know we do have. I know Kate will be there looking for tree volunteers, but we'll get the word out to the boards and committees.
Sounds good.
Especially if I could add the smaller boards that, might not always be full. Always looking for people. This is a great time to get people so we understand, so they know what they could be involved in and what they could do. It'll be nomination paper time too, so elected officers should be there hopefully, so they can talk it up. See how people can get involved.
Okay. All right, this is our senior tax work-off program. We're trying to get the word out a little bit more on this program. So what this is a statutorily not required, but allowable, essentially exemption or rebate program that allows for seniors to work, essentially get paid minimum wage for working at the town hall or doing anything, involved with the town, and up to $1,500. I just want to that $1,500 is a taxable event in the eyes of the federal government, so your federal taxes will be reduced. So the net benefit on your tax comes out to be roughly $1,250. That's just a heads up, so nobody's surprised if they.
But so they don't get paid, they just get money off their taxes, right? They can get $1,250 off their taxes.
Yep, but we essentially pay a tax, their tax for them, and that gets reduced. So the town is realizing, both through the exemption amount, the allowable accounting entry, $1,500, but $1,250 is applied to the real estate payment, and the other $250 is a payment to the IRS for the benefit.
I understand.
So we're still out the same amount of money at the end of the day. But anyway, so we allow for up to 10 individuals, $1,500 per individual. It's $15 an hour. It's 100. So it's 100 hours to get the maximum benefit. You're not required to work all 100 hours. If you want to work 2 hours, that's perfectly fine as well. It's up to the 100. The different projects are, filing, records retention, bookkeeping, various organization projects, cleanup. I know that there's some interesting opportunities with the tree program that if any individuals are looking to, get out, get their steps in, kind of walk around and inventory the trees. I know we're looking for a lot of help on that. That's a pretty big undertaking and something fun you can get out in town and do and earn some credit on your tax bill. We will be creating a website, or really just in the COA part of the website, we'll be uploading basically a summary of this program, an application that the COA director reviews. And, right now we're essentially everyone who's filled out an application in the past is currently involved in the program and receiving credits. So we're still looking for more folks, and we'll be pushing more information out through our various social medias. So look for that to come in the following week or so.
That sounds really good, Steve.
Yeah, it's a good program. Joe, you want to talk on this?
Yeah, I think is Joe on?
Yes,
Yeah, Joe, you got this one, right?
yes. Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Yep, so there's just a reminder, the CPC deadline for applications will be on Wednesday, January 11th at 4 p.m. They should be turned into the town administrator's office. There should also be an electronic copy emailed to Michelle at mmcgovern@wenhamma.gov. That's M as in Mary, M as in Mary, C as in cat, govern at wenhamma.gov. Just so that's next month, and unless there is an extraordinary circumstance that is the deadline, in sort of an urgent emergency situation, the CPC can vote to extend that, but for all intents and purposes, the deadline is on January 11th, barring some kind of urgent emergency. So again, these applications will be for preserving historic preservation, open space, recreation, or community housing. And all applications have to be considered by the CPC for a vote. But again, the deadline will be next month, January 11, 2023 at 4 p.m. If you have any questions, you can also feel free to, residents can contact me, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Joe. And the next one?
Yeah, so the next announcement is the town clerk election schedule. And I think the next slide might have the dates on it. But in any event, there's several deadlines coming up for elections. Here we go. And so there are plenty of seats that are available. And these are all elected seats. As you can see, most of them are one seats, or there's one seat available for 3 years. There are a couple exceptions here. For instance, planning board, there's one seat available for a 5-year term. Regional school committee, 2 seats for 3 years. Housing authority, 1 seat for 5 years, but most of them are 1 for 3 years. And the town election will be coming up in April, Thursday, April 6th. And some other important dates here. Last day to register for the town meeting is March 22nd coming up. Town meeting, by the way, is April 1st on a Saturday. I won't go through everything here, but just some important things to note. If you're a resident and you're considering running for office, the first day to pull papers is January 10th of next month. That's when the nomination papers will be available, and the deadline to submit nomination papers with the certified signatures would be on February 16th, which is also an important date to remember. But again, if you have any questions, you can contact myself or the town clerk.
Thank you, Joe. And one point on that, those that are considering the regional school committee, that paperwork is handled through the school office. Is that right, Joe?
Yes, I believe
Yep.
that's correct. Yes.
All right, town administrators update.
Yep, so we, a little change in our insurance, my insurance package. This is something Michelle and Joe researched, and it seems to be a great service that Maya offers at no charge. So it's something we're signing up for. It's their unemployment service. So what it does is it actually gives us access to training modules about how the unemployment works and how to vet unemployment claims. They also assist us with looking for fraudulent unemployment claims and working with the state, to get relief from having to pay the fraudulent claims. So it seems like a great add-on to the service with Maya. So, we're looking forward to using that. Also, the fire department was recently awarded a grant. A press release went out on that, but just wanted to bring it up to the folks that didn't see that. I believe it's about $10,000. And it allows them to replace their turnout gear. So that's Jeff and Steve Kavanaugh put that application together, and we were able to secure those funds. So good job on them.
Hey, Steve,
Yep.
can I jump in for a second?
Yep.
So I watched a couple of these MMA webinars, and it's pretty amazing how much money is available out there as grants. And I know that one of the things we discussed when I was on that 3-year strategic plan for the schools, I think one of the things that's going to be proposed in next year's budget is a grant writer, because there's just so much money out there, and they get one grant and you automatically pay for the salary.
Yeah. No, I agree. There is a lot of money out there. Yeah, no, I mean, there's definitely a lot of opportunities, and it's definitely a full-time job, just because you don't get every grant. So you might submit 10,
So-
15 applications and you get one. But I agree, there's a lot of opportunities out there. And we're filling out, we are doing our part, but we could do that. We could do better for sure.
So I looked at the last webinar I looked at was on the electrification of town vehicles.
Mhm.
And I mean, between the federal and the state level, the amount of money that's going to be thrown at grants and also other incentives to change school buses, you name it, from gas to electric. And that's just one area. Then you get the whole area of water.
Yeah, that's right. That's the Inflation Act, right? That has a ton of incentives for the electric vehicles. So we'll be in a good position with that study that we're doing to take advantage of some of those.
Right. Yep. So I don't really know. There seems to be an opportunity there. I just don't know how to put my arms around it.
Oh, I agree. I agree. It's something we can probably do better of in-house here as well. It's something I'll put on my radar.
Perhaps that's a possibility of a three-way shared position between the two towns and the schools, once we get a look at how much
Wow.
workload there is. Because up to this point, it's been basically within the department. I know Margaret Hoffman has secured the big master planning grant, and Mallory had the Green Garden grant that went all the way up to the governor's desk, but didn't quite make it. We're going to try again next year, but certainly, yeah, let's go for the money. What else, Steve?
Just the last one is just a brief update on the 3 to 5, so that the amendment that the board voted on a few meetings ago was accepted, and the bill was passed by the Senate and is now in the House. So it is moving forward.
Very well, thank you. So Chair's report, two items. The first, a group of thank yous to those folks involved in the Race Across America last Saturday at noontime. So thank you first to all the donors that made it happen, to Bill Wilson that led the program throughout the year, to Dean Peterson, our always eloquent master of ceremonies, to Chief Kavanaugh in the fire department that helped with the setup, and the police department that handled the traffic out there, and of course to all the folks, including the scouts and so forth, that showed up to lay a wreath on every veteran's grave. Over 500 were laid, and fortunately that gray Saturday morning we got just a bit of sun as that occurred. So thanks for everyone turning out for that. The second item is a little bit more lengthy, reporting back from the five chairs meeting last week. So the two chairs of the Hamilton Wenham FinCom, the two chairs of the Hamilton Wenham Select Board, and the chair of the school committee, along with the superintendent and staff and town staffs, met and basically talked and shared information on the upcoming budget season. So points that I got noted from that meeting and from the recent emails coming out. The first point that I'd make is that far better cooperation and positive contributions from all the parties involved compared to years in past. Otherwise, details, school enrollment is down 1%. Of note, last year's 123 eighth graders, just 93 showed up to be ninth graders at the high school. So we're losing a lot to private schools there. The high school is now decreased in enrollment down to 389 students from 425 last year. The school district is developing a budget that currently, but not yet approved, has a 3% increase overall. And with the school enrollment shifts in the calculations, Wenham is going to come in with about a 0.5% increase. And I think Hamilton has about a 4.5% increase. With very large projects coming down the pike here very quickly, the three groups looked at coordinating major budget items, especially in the capital area. So the one that the school is looking at is replacement of the high school roof, about $4 million. They didn't quite make the cutoff for state aid this year, so they're going to roll that to next year. The school district is looking to do the athletic fields in this coming year, so that'll probably come up on the April town meeting. Hamilton is looking for the town hall construction in FY24, and when, of course, we have quite a backlog of capital needs also in FY24. So someone's hitting a horn, so please mute if you're not on. Before the major school construction impacts us, as I said, the Hamilton is looking at the town hall renovation and Wenham for capital needs. On to the major topic was the new Cutler School. And Michelle, can you put up that first slide, if possible? So general timeline on the school, at this special town meeting, we passed the feasibility study. At the April town meeting, we'll be funding that. And we're looking at probably in April annual town meeting of the of 2024 for the actual school project. I would encourage everybody to go to the Massachusetts School Building Authority website, which has plenty of charts, details, and lists all the current projects statewide. Brought this chart up because this is going to be a large project. And as you can see, over the last 10 years, school building cost construction has gone from about the $300 range back in 2013 to looks like it's, if you look up to the 2023, 2024 era, we're up to maybe $600 to $700 per square foot. For Wenham, we have the question on enrollment based upon what Pulte Homes does. And Hamilton has the big question as to what happens to Gordon Conwell. So I think the school building committee, which Peters will be a member of, will have the major task of getting the right size for it as well. So Michelle, can you put the second slide up? So lots of dots, and just so people can get a grip on what the cost is going to be, the state will contribute 47%. However, that 47% is just on the basic construction. So typically that you might say that scales down to about 40% state aid. So we got 300 dots on this page, each of $1/3 apiece. So long term, obviously it's going to be a borrowing proposition. The state will eventually hopefully pick up 35, 45, or about 40%. So everything from the left of the chart over to the first red exclamation mark. And on the basic, school enrollment sharing is roughly a 2-to-1 Hamilton versus Wenham. So Hamilton's going to pick up about 40% of the program and Wenham 20%. So for Wenham, you're talking if the school comes in $105 million range for total cost. So, we're going to be looking at $25 million of borrowing. And if you look at all those dots there and then cast your eyes down to the very bottom right corner, we see another plus sign instead of a dot. And I just point that out for people that, we've got a lot of feedback on the how to fund the school feasibility study, that people are concerned about borrowing. But in fact, that feasibility study is only going to be about less than 0.5% of the cost of the schools. So we'll get that funded. But again, I would encourage you to both go to the school committee building meetings coming up the next year, and also go to that website that can give you a good idea of just what this project's going to involve. So anything, questions, Diane, Peter, from that meeting for me?
I had a question for you on that plus, that bottom right plus
Yes.
for that feasibility study. What exactly are you saying that it's
So
only a drop in the bucket is what I'm gathering, but as far
yeah,
as
so
funding it,
it's about $350,000 we approved
right.
for the budget. Overall school is, going to be up the $100 million range. So people, if you're concerned about borrowing, and I understand that, you just have to keep things in scale that there's going to be major borrowing in the years ahead, and probably in FY 25, 26 time range. And that perhaps meanwhile, our finance committee is looking at what major capital spending we need to get done before these large costs hit the overall town budget.
Okay.
All right, so that's it for the chair's report. On to Diane.
I don't really have anything.
Right. Peter?
I think I've already talked about some of the stuff.
Yeah, those the MMA webinars are available to the public. You can go onto that MMA.org, and they're both recorded and available future lists. All right, on to next business. So Diana, Peter, you want to make this one?
I move to approve and release the executive session minutes dated 11/30/2022.
Second,
Questions? Otherwise, the roll call vote. Peter?
Yes.
Diane?
yes.
Gary, yes.
Okay, I move to approve the open session minutes dated 11/30/2022.
Second,
Roll call vote. Peter?
Yes.
Diane?
yes.
Gary? Yes. Next.
Thank you, Catherine.
Okay, is Rich with us tonight?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes,
All right, let me see if I hear it.
now we got the video.
All right. All right, so you want me to just jump right in? There should
Yes.
be a few slides that I sent over. So yeah, more or less, this is, we have a list of private roads that we do plow, and we have a list of private roads that we do not plow. I guess the mechanism of how this was created, I'm not exactly sure. I would say it's more of a grandfathered list of just roads that the current slide is the ones that we do plow. For whatever reason in the past, these roads were included in our snow and ice operations. This was basically a list that was handed down to me, and more or less this is the way it's been for quite some time. The next slide, and if you have any questions on these roads that we do plow, feel free. This slide is the one that we currently do not. So I did notice I actually have this couple missing bullets where down about 5 down Wallace Drive, there should be another bullet for Horse Hill Lane. Same thing with Danes Way and Larch Lane. But these are the roads that are private, that the DPW for one reason or another currently do not plow. The note that I have here for Spring Hill and Wenham Pines, we currently do not do either of those roads. I don't anticipate that we'll be doing them this winter.
I
But
believe
Spring
both of those
Hill-
were, Rich, I think those last two are both part of the development plan that those communities do their own.
The Spring Hill and Wenham Pines.
Yes, the Wenham Pines, yeah.
Yeah, that's why I know Spring Hill is going to be on the warrant this year, town meeting, right, to be accepted. Is that correct? I believe that's correct.
Margaret, are you on there too? You have a hand up?
Yeah, hi, Gary, thank you. Spring Hill, we do anticipate them coming to the town for acceptance in the spring. I mean, at the spring town meeting.
All right,
So
thank
that
you.
we imagine it will be accepted, and then it will become the town's responsibility. But Wenham Pines is, yes, a private way, and it will stay private in perpetuity. So,
Oh, well, okay, so that's good to know. I wasn't sure if they were going to come to a future
Yeah.
FY25 meeting. So that's basically, when a new development is constructed, then, through planning board process, if they're going to be accepted or not, that's when we would add them to the list. I did a little bit of digging, and it looks like the last road that was accepted was Settlers Lane back in 2019. So, and it looks like they went through the same process where they had, I'm not sure if it was a brand new road or if it was engineering plans, and they came to planning board and then ultimately town meeting back in April of 2019. So that is how new construction would be added to the list. So yeah, we're working off a list, as I mentioned, that's more of a grandfathered, for any roads that we currently do plow, that's more of a determination that's been made, years prior to either do or do not plow those particular private ways. And that's really, I guess, the list that I have, and meeting with the guys and going over, that's how we basically what we execute. The next slide is just basically the snow and ice policy. It's just a couple pager. It is on the town website on the DPW page. That's just a link down at the bottom there. Very, I guess, briefly, feel free to take a look at that on your own, but it just sort of gives the rundown of what the DPW does as far as, when do we start our snow and ice operations? More or less, once the road conditions, it's necessary to actually clear or if we get a call from the police to do any sanding, salting for slip roads. And then more or less, it's just the way we sort of prioritize, where we start, where we end, the use of sand, salt, other chemicals. And then after we have the roads under control, we move to the sidewalks. There's a little bit of mention as far as just personal property, more or less our guidelines as to when we will replace, repair mailboxes, fences, things where, due to our operations, if there's any damage caused by equipment and or snow. So that's just more of something where if anybody looking for that information, it is on the website and they can take a look there. And of course, feel free to give me a call if there's any other questions that they'd like to answer that may not be included in this policy. But I guess pretty quickly, but that's more or less the roads that we do and the roads that we currently do not do, and our policy for when we start those snow and ice operations.
Thank you, Rich. Any questions, Diane or Peter?
No, that was great. I've always wanted to see something like that. Thanks, Rich.
So let me see if I get this right. So we're actually subsidizing the private roads that we plow. Is that right?
So yeah, I guess, basically, yes. The private roads that are not plowed, residents have to, come up with accommodations on their own. And the roads that we do plow, the town's equipment is being used to clear those roads.
So I don't know if that's a lot of time or anything, and I guess it also depends on the severity of the winter. But I guess I don't understand why we're plowing private roads.
Well,
So-
some of them are grandfather roads that were in place from, 100 years ago, but have never been accepted, but were always worked, and others that have applied to be accepted. So something to look at, though.
Okay.
Yeah, and I guess that is, my experience in other municipalities where there always is that list of private roads that have just sort of always been done by the town, and they continue to be cleared. It's not uncommon to have, I guess, that handful of streets that we do plow.
So
Okay.
if I could ask a quick question, those streets that are private, or any private way, what other work does not get done by us?
So, the answer, I guess, is no other work is done by us. There are some roads that we may fill potholes in, just to help maintain, ones that we do plow, on the private side. So just to keep safety of drivers and equipment, damages down. But yeah, no paving. I guess I couldn't do a paving project on one of those roads. Chapter 90 would not reimburse me if I was trying to use Chapter 90 funds to do those roads, because they're not town accepted roads. So more or less anything from the DPW side, I guess if there's a hydrant that needed to be replaced, or any water gates, I believe Eric and his group would repair those to maintain water to the customers. But other than that, as far as the highways mechanism, we don't do work on those roads.
So would it make sense to take those private roads that we already plow and bring them to town meeting and make them public ways?
So that would be, I think, Margaret's group would have an issue, because those roads don't I don't know every
Okay.
single particular road, but they don't conform to bylaws that are in place to
Yes.
for roadway acceptance. So that's where I don't, I'd say 90% of the issue is that these roads don't conform, so that's why they remain private.
Got it. Thank you very much.
Anything else? Thank you, Rich.
No problem.
Up next, we invite Kate Mallory, our conservation coordinator. She has a briefing for us tonight on proposed tree program. Good evening, Kate.
Evening, everybody. Thank you for having me here. This is wonderful. So this is what we're calling the Heritage Tree Program. And this program is really important for Wenham's future climate resiliency. Next slide, please. So the primary goals of this program is to create a town-wide heritage tree program, create an ArcGIS story map database of trees, create a town-wide tree policy, become a Tree City USA community, and implement green infrastructure. Next slide. All right, so let's look at what we can expect will be the impacts of climate change for the Northeast. The EPA shows warming of 4.5 to 10 degrees Fahrenheit by 2080. So we're expecting heavy rain events in the winter and spring and drought conditions in the summer. So if you think about it, we just had that this last year. It's just becoming the norm. So what can we expect specifically in Wenham? Next slide, please. In Wenham, we can expect impacts on human health, such as higher temperatures in the Northeast and increased heat-related deaths and decreased air quality. There will be impacts from increased precipitation and stormwater events, which means catch basins can overload, resulting in wastewater discharge into water bodies and wetlands, and that affects recreation and drinking water. Next slide. There's impacts to ecosystems. Certain tree species are thriving in the north where it's cooler and struggling here. So our beloved sugar maples and species like that are going to start shrinking in the US. Warmer temperatures are also increasing outbreaks of forest pests, including the hemlock woolly agogig. We're actually seeing this down in Pleasant Pond right now on Pleasant Street. A lot of the hemlocks down there are dying, and it's probably a pest and a climate issue. So there's invasive plants like the Japanese knotweed and Phragmites that have been expanding their range and are contributing to the loss of biodiversity in Wenham, the loss of function and resiliency in our ecosystems. The Wenham swamp, which is so important to Wenham, is full of Phragmites. You probably all can see that behind the tea house. It's expanding everywhere. There's Japanese knotweed everywhere as well. Next slide, please. So Wenham's drinking water is drawn from 2 gravel-packed wells. It's actually a wonderful system. Wenham's really lucky. These wells draw from the Great Wenham Swamp, which provides a natural filter for the water. So it does not have to be treated very much. The aquifer is recharged from water in the Great Wenham Swamp and other local wetlands. It's really important to the town. So the Wenham Swamp has a large part in purifying the groundwater, keeping the water costs down. Like I said, it's a wonderful system. Next slide. So the Wenham Swamp needs to be protected, but right now it's dealing with a lot of stormwater runoff. This is very common in New England, actually. There's this old infrastructure where people thought it would be great to have stormwater runoff run into wetland areas because wetlands are control flooding. So it actually makes a lot of sense. But because of climate change and the amount of stormwater precipitation that we're expecting, these systems actually probably are not going to be sustainable for the long term. So let me back up stormwater runoff and tell you kind of what it is. Road salts get runoff into these wetland areas. Gas from cars, fertilizers, pesticides, trash, oil, pet waste, bacteria, all of that gets run off, and a lot of it hits water bodies or our wetland systems, and that can degrade the area. And so if you remember, we're expecting higher floods, We're expecting more droughts, temperature changes that destabilizes these areas. Plus they have a lot of invasive species in them. So if you look at this area right here, this is a map of Topsfield Road over by the Angelini farm. We all know that this goes down, Topsfield Road is a hill. It goes down right into the Wenham swamps. The squares are catch basins. So that's where the water goes into. And then the lines are culverts where the water goes through and it goes right down. You can see and outflows into all the wetlands near the area. And this is all through Wenham, and it's not just a Wenham issue. Like I said, it's all throughout New England on the old infrastructure, but this is not wonderful for the systems. And again, I showed this area because it's so important because it's our water supply area, but it's happening all throughout the Wenham area, all throughout Wenham. Next slide. So we've got all these issues. That's the bad news, but the good news is that trees can help with all these issues. Next slide. Obviously, I'm going through this really fast, but I can give you guys the slides for this just so you know. Trees absorb carbon dioxide, they clean the air, and they filter water. Next slide. They help sustain biodiversity. They're home to wildlife. They boost mental and physical health, and they're natural air conditioning. If you look at the picture on the right, I thought this was awesome. This was a study that was done, and the picture on the top, there's no trees on the street. I know this is in Celsius. It's actually the 50 degrees Celsius. That's 122 degrees Fahrenheit. And if you look at the same spot on the street, on the bottom street with trees, 26 degrees Fahrenheit is 79 degrees Fahrenheit. That's a 43-degree difference between streets that have tree shade versus no tree shade. So we're talking electrical differences, health differences. It's a big, huge thing. Next slide. All right, so what do trees do? They control flooding. Trees can intercept water through their roots and their tree canopies and help filter out pollutants from runoff. Next slide. Okay, so we know that climate change will bring a lot of challenges. We know that trees can help, and this is fantastic because Wenham is full of trees, and so we're good to go. Unfortunately, that's not the case. The town in 2018 did a Wenham tree management plan. There were 310 town trees that were studied. That's not all the town trees, but those were trees that were studied. Of those 310 town trees, 141 trees were recommended for removal. So that is half of the town tree stock right there of town trees that have some sort of issue with them. And then we add on climate change, and we add on these droughts, and we add on these rain events. We're probably in a more precarious situation than we actually realize in town. Next step. So what do we do? I thought about this a lot. I've talked to a lot of people, definitely with Margaret and Gary and Rich Sousa, and we all were, different ideas were thrown about. There were 5 recommendations that I thought were really important. So the first one is to create a townwide heritage tree program. This overall program is to preserve and replenish town trees. So this would protect trees that are significantly large, because those are very important trees, significantly old, unique or rare, interesting, or have some sort of documented history. We have Al Dodge's book on history of some trees around here, and we have the library that would have some history on trees. So protect those special trees, establish a bylaw, and once those trees are designated, it would be against the town policy for any person to remove or injure, cut, destroy one of those heritage trees without permission. Recommendation 2, next slide, would be to create an interactive ArcGIS story map database of trees. So this would show where designated trees are located, interesting facts about the trees, a picture of the tree, This could increase community education. We could work with DPW to put up electrical lines. We could look in areas that are more hazardous, that might have trees that need to come down. There's a bunch of things we can do here.
God.
And I can do that. I can create that whole thing. So recommendation 3, next one, next slide, is create a town-wide tree policy bylaw. So right now the Conservation Commission has a tree policy, but only in the Conservation Commission jurisdiction. So this would be expanding the bylaw throughout the town. We're working on that now to create one now, a draft. Recommendation 4, next slide, is become a Tree City USA community. So this is part of the Arbor Day Foundation. We actually are close to being able to apply for this. The thing that we need is that townwide tree policy. We already have a tree department. We spend enough money per year and we can celebrate Arbor Day. I've put in for an increase in our budget, for the town budget, for being able to do some of these things. But this would help apply for grants, especially grants through DCR. I know that Peter Clay was talking about grants earlier. This is one more notch that the states look at when they're giving away grants. So it's a good thing to have. And recommendation 5 is my favorite one. It's to implement green infrastructure. And so when we were looking back on that map on Topsfield Road, and we're looking at these areas where catch basins are, stormwater runoff is being released through these catch basins overflowing. There are great areas in town where we could be looking to create green infrastructure so we have natural solutions to these problems. They're a lot cheaper than gray infrastructure, and they're more beautiful. They can be educational. The Wenham Swamp already does have kind of a natural buffer out there, but there's ways to make it even better. We had talked about the Bucher School, the driveway floods over there. There are Class A soils down there. It's a perfect place for a retention system. So it would be cheaper and wonderful for those kind of systems to be implemented. And so my thing would be creating a yearly plan, working with DPW and our tree warden, creating areas where green infrastructure projects can be placed where they're already doing street maintenance. Next slide. And last but not least, the expense. It's actually not that expensive to implement this. It would be a lot of my time and maybe some community volunteers. The tree plaques for the heritage trees are $50 to $100 a plaque. And then it would really depend on how much green infrastructure we're willing to do in the town. I'd be looking to apply for many grants for that as well, and looking to up the tree warden's budget. The reason why the tree warden's budget, in my opinion, needs to be increased is because right now we only plant about 9 trees a year. So for about $2,000, which is a low cost, we can plant about 9 or 10 more. So we're doubling the amount of trees. And a lot of these trees that are dying are a huge safety hazard. So these town trees that need to come down, safety wise, the budget needs to be increased. Next slide. Oh, and that's it. So thank you, everybody. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you letting me present this. I know it was a long presentation, but I appreciate your support and welcome your feedback. And I'm happy to send you the slides.
Diane,
Hey, you did a great job. I think that's awesome. I think a lot of community members would want to be involved as well. So I think we could get volunteers pretty easily to do this. I think it's a wonderful idea. Thank you for spearheading and for teaching us about it.
Awesome. Thank you, Diane.
Yeah,
Peter?
can we get the garden club involved?
Actually, they're on my list. I have a longer presentation, believe it or not, Peter, and they're on my list as the stakeholders to reach out to.
Great.
Thank you.
so, and Kate, you should mention that our first chance of the grant went, all the way to the governor's desk before getting cut out?
Yes, it was part of the economic development package that actually had to be pulled back because the state found out they needed to refund taxes. I'm not really sure what happened there, but then the package was truncated down. It still went right before Mr. Charlie Baker, Governor Charlie Baker, and he chopped it. So we were close, but we're going to try again. I've been in contact with all of our representatives, and I'm on their radar.
Sounds great.
Yeah. And Gary, I want to thank you so much for your support too. You've been really helpful with this project.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, anything else, Diana, Peter?
Nope, thank you.
All right, moving forward then, Michelle. So you want to handle this one, Steve? I think Steve's muted, so I'll take it then. So this is a review and vote on donations made in honor of the late Reserve Officer William Foley to the Wenham Police Department. And we saw in our packages, and we'd like to thank all those kind people that recognized Officer Foley's commitment to the town and contributed. So these funds will be used by the police department. So Diane, you want to make the motion or comments?
I would love to. I move to accept the donations made in honor of, I think it means retired Reserve Officer William Foley to the Wenham Police Department.
I second.
Roll call vote then, Peter,
Yes.
Diane,
Yes.
Gary, yes. Done. Thank you very much.
Thank you, board members. I just want to quickly echo Gary's comments and thanking everyone who made these kind donations in Officer Foley's name. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Chief.
Very nice.
All right, so next one coming up here is, as we've seen, paperwork continues to accumulate in Town Hall. And we need to take some dedicated time off to catch up and sort out the paperwork. So discussion, prevention, and potential vote, we're looking at Friday, January 13th to close the town hall to the public so the entire staff can work on cleaning out their department paperwork, and the town clerks will be working with us as to retention schedules and so forth. Comments, Peter, Diane?
Nope. Needs to be done.
Is there a plan or how you would go about it?
Yeah, so we have the retention schedules. We're getting some education to each of the department heads via Steve. And then we're looking to have a casual dress day on that Friday. And each department will work first in their own offices, and then volunteers or others will at least tackle a little bit of work down in the basement as well.
Yeah, and we're coordinating with DPW, so when we, not on that day to get shredded, but any sensitive information that's outside of the retention schedule that we're looking to dispose of, we'll consolidate it into a location and then work to have a shredding company come in and dispose of it appropriately.
And Friday, January 13th is actually the Friday before the long weekend. So did you choose the date that way, or is it going to just be a 4-hour thing?
Well, we chose it, low impact on the public, as it's just a low use Friday, and we'll get some other work done on the records, and then people can enjoy the long weekend as well.
Yeah, and this is really a first step to, there's a lot of records downstairs, just through turnover, and there's just a lot of records in everybody's office that a lot of folks haven't even really tapped into. So just give everybody a chance at least to set up a game plan, spend the 4 hours, start going through stuff, separating things, that we can get rid of, and just a first step to kind of moving our way down towards the basement and organizing all the records.
Okay. I move to close Town Hall on Friday, January 13th, 2023 for a records and archival review.
I second.
Anything else? Roll call vote, Peter,
Yes.
Diane,
Yep.
Gary, yes. All yours then, Steve. All right, we saw this next item of business on the previous meeting, and I think we've got all the paperwork straightened out now. Any further questions from Peter or Diane on this one?
I do not. I think they were my questions, and it seems as if the most recent packet had everything clear. So I'm fine with that. And so I'll do the motions unless Pete wants to discuss before.
No, don't
Okay.
need to.
I move to approve the 2023 annual used car dealer license for Burnett's Garage, Inc.
Second,
Anything else? Roll call vote. Peter,
yes,
Diane,
Yes.
Gary, yes.
And I move to approve the 2023 annual used car dealer license for Freeman's Garage.
yes. I second,
Second. Now the vote. Peter,
yes.
Diane,
Yes,
Gary, yes.
thank you.
Item F, opera discussion of event, potential vote on the final list. So for the public, we had over 176 respondents on the survey. Is that right, Steve?
174.
174. All right. So
He's
pretty good
muted.
turnout on the survey.
Sorry, 174.
Good information back, but a couple of notes on that. I'm not sure we came for a definitive decision from the survey results, as if you went through it, all but one of the items had votes both for the 0 and for the 10. 17 of the items were packed in there between 4 and 6 on average, and even the extreme ones were 3 and 7. So we had a lot of comments as well, and a lot of data points. But I think the final but the final rankings from the three of us did not exactly parallel the community, but fairly close on a lot of the items. And I think that perhaps the three of us also were thinking in broader terms as to what was short-term, what's long-term, what had alternate funding sources, and what might have additional issues with them. So Diane, over to you for a discussion on the final ARPA list. Do we have that slide available?
Did the slide come up? Can you see it?
Yes.
Pretty,
So just one comment on the survey. 174 respondents is nice. It's not a huge amount of residents. And also a lot of the comments were made that they didn't have enough information at the survey. So I think we just need to reiterate that we've been exploring this for quite a while, and we've discussed it at a variety of different meetings, and stuff was on the website, et cetera, et cetera. So we didn't really expect someone just to go in and be able to look at that survey and just know everything about each line item, just going in blind. But I just wanted to make sure that people knew that we had discussed it before. We didn't mean to make it difficult for people. But after reading through it, I'd like to throw a motion out there for discussion among the three of us that we consider or discuss. So I move to consider and discuss using some ARPA money towards the school feasibility study.
so discussion first, Peter.
Well, do I get a second first?
Peter, you're muted if you're speaking.
Can we discuss it before we,
We can't really discuss it unless you second it, and then we
All
can
right.
discuss it,
second?
right?
Right.
So, and the reason I bring this up is all the other, what we did originally is ask all the town departments to tell us what things that they need to get done and what things are on their wish lists and what needs to be done. We didn't actually ask the school. There was timing, it was confusion, whatever. So the feasibility study never actually got onto our list. I don't know that it needs to be funded by ARPA, so I'm not saying that. I just want to discuss it because of, there were quite a few comments about that on the survey. I do feel as if the ARPA funds, if I might say, are an opportunity for the town to take care of some town things that we overlook oftentimes or all the time. So that's where my thought was with the majority of the ARPA. But I also am listening to some of the residents that feel that we should use the ARPA towards the schools. So I wanted to just bring it out again and throw a discussion just among the three of us, since haven't really done that.
So, and just a quick note, if you're not amongst the three of us or Steve, please mute because we're getting background noise.
Thank you.
Peter,
Right, so I took this sheet and I cumed it. And got to like 1.4 million on item number 12, right?
Mhm.
And then I said, okay, so it's like 350K for this school study, feasibility study, right? And I think if I understand how this works, Steve, we would have to charge off the full 350 and not bank on getting a grant, right?
I think that, well, we will be due a reimbursement from the MSBA. The timing on that could be anywhere from 12 to 24 months out. And the current, what I believe the schools, the way they're going to structure the debt is they're going to have short-term borrow the 346 and continue to roll that until the MSBA reimbursement comes in. So then we know the real cost. So you're paying the interest and debt service on 346 in the interim. And then you get the reimbursement and it will go to the long-term debt solution. So basically, if the objective is to remove any cost implications to the town, yes, you would have to tie up $346,000 today with the anticipation that you'll get somewheres in the range of $60,000 to $75,000 back in 2 years from now.
So that single feasibility study would almost take a third of our ARPA funds.
Right.
Yeah,
At
so
least certainly delay the projects a couple of years before they can get started.
so Diane, I'm like, no way.
Okay.
So I just wrote down, here are things that would not be done. So I got to the 1.4 million on line 12. But we would forego iron rail septic, which is about to fall apart. Town hall main entry doors, which is a safety issue. Police administration relocation. I know the chief was on, but it's very awkward what's currently going on in that police station. The ADA ramps and sidewalk repairs. I'm not sure if Rich is there, but I know he's tried to address some of the ADA issues, but we still have some. And then West Wenham Park Phase 1. Those would all be forgone by funding the school feasibility study. So let's get stuff done now.
right. So I'll just weigh in and comment that I think the public, there may be a little bit of misunderstanding. At special town meeting, we voted and approved the feasibility study. So it is going to be funded. And essentially, we have multiple pots that we may draw the money out. I see the simplest one is to just use the capital budget or operating budget to pay for the interest over the next couple of years as the school rolls this through bands until the large school building project actually gets built. Also, I'm kind of concerned that mixing school budgets and studies with ARPA that we know we're going to have detailed reporting on is going to be quite a bit of paperwork as well. So I think that the list here is directed at town projects, that everything is needed. And we know we started with a list of 65. So I think, to reassure people, yes, the feasibility study is going to be done. We really need the school. at the five chairs meeting, as we said, we're laying out a plan so that all three entities can get their needs met. But that's the comment. So
Well, I appreciate both of those comments. I agree. I needed a little bit more background from you guys to really feel comfortable with that. But I mean, I know the school feasibility study is going to happen. I know that the school is going to need more money. But I really want to take care of some of these projects here into town before we get weighed down with the other things. So I put a motion on, we voted to put it on the, up for discussion. Do we need to vote or anything? I don't know what I did now.
you made a motion to reconsider the feasibility
Right.
study as the thing. So we actually need a vote.
Now we need to vote on it, right?
Yes. So are we ready to vote?
Yes.
Then Peter, your vote.
No.
Diane?
No,
Gary, no. All right.
thank you for my little,
Yes, and Diane, your first comment was very important too, that, some of the comments, we have put out quite a bit of information. We had the presentations on the select board meeting from each of the department heads. So, yeah, folks, information's out there. I know nowadays it's sometimes hard to access, but it is on the website.
And just,
All
it's
right.
actually linked right off the survey itself, the
Right.
very first line of the survey. all
I
the
did read, there were like 21 comments about school feasibility study, so.
right?
So are we gonna vote to actually accept this?
Yes, we can. And as you said, we had already set aside some money for the direct PP cost to the town. And so I think we're down to about, Steve, about 1.3 million, because we started 1.5 something, 100,000 for water. And what was the total from the first four we set across?
Just about 1.4 left to go.
All right.
The rest of the funds have been earmarked
Right.
for what you just described.
All right.
Which
So
is-
go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, so that when I cumed it, it got us down to line item 12.
All right. Which is the,
West Wenham.
yeah, West Wenham. All right. So
So
we know-
can I just jump in for a second? So
Sure.
we're voting on this. This is our plan. This is our goal. If,
Yes.
when we look at these projects, if something comes up, if a grant becomes available or we apply for CPC for certain pieces of these projects and we don't need to use the ARPA, then it can get pushed down to, we're going to keep the whole list. It might get pushed down to a further project. Is that correct?
Yeah, that'd be
so,
great.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we have opportunities for CPC perhaps. Certainly, these are all round figures, so each project may be coming in under
Mhm.
cost and so forth. So that, yeah, we will proceed down the list as the money comes available.
Perfect.
Certainly, we got, there's a couple of big chunks in there that, as say, may have other funding. So I'll make the motion then that I move that the Wenham Select Board authorizes the town administrator to proceed with the first 12 items on the ARPA list as presented, and to report back to the select board on closer actual estimates or proposals.
I
Second.
second.
All right.
Nope.
Any further comments or questions?
No.
All right. Then move to the vote. Peter,
Yes.
Diane,
Yes.
Gary, yes. So that Steve, you got the set asides and the first 12 to start going on. So this is a big workload, for the staff, but we'll work through this.
Yeah, no, we're actually excited to get going. We've had
Right.
a number of quotes in, so we're we've been
Right.
waiting for this to pull the trigger on a few of the projects. So this is
All right.
good.
So
I-
let's plan to readdress this. Perhaps the second meeting in January might have some actual operational plans in place for these as to what we think timelines are going to be.
Oh yeah, I'll add it to the agenda right now.
All right.
Have an update.
How's that sound, Diane, Peter?
That sounds like a lot of work in a short amount of time.
Yeah. But, you know, we got great staff people, and at some point too, we may, you know, need some outside help, perhaps that senior write-off program, because, you know, there's going to be plenty of paperwork on these projects, knowing the requirements.
And I thank everybody, all the hard work that people put into this.
Yeah.
So,
And as we said, for the people that sent in the survey, took the time, appreciated. All right, onward then, Michelle. All right, so next planned select board meeting is January 10th. A very important quintuple board meeting, and for the public, that's Hamilton and Wenham Finance Committees, Hamilton Wenham Select Board Committees, and the Regional School District Committee, along with staff, will be meeting at the Bucher Cafeteria, I believe, on January 11th. And that will be the first real look at a preliminary approved budgets from the three entities. So we'll match up where the gaps are and what we're doing going forward, and preparing the final warrants for a town meeting. Anything further, Peter?
no,
Anything, Diane?
No,
All right. Catherine, you got all the minutes, okay?
All set, thank you.
All right, and thank you, Joe and Steve, for the preparation. And last thing, I think we just help out the fire department, the police department, and the health department. So holiday season here, please be careful on the streets and at home. So give our first responders a break. So be careful and be safe.
Yep.
All right,
All right, with nothing left to discuss, I move that we adjourn the December 20th, 2022 Select Board meeting at 7:43.
second,
all those in favor, Peter,
Yes.
Diane,
yes,
Gary, yes. Thank you very much, folks. And
thank you.
Thank you.
see you next year. All right,
That's right. Happy New Year. Be safe.
yes. Good night.
Good night.